It's time now for a look at what's making headlines here in France, and we can say good morning to Deepika Laurent.
Hi, Delano.
Hi, good to see you. Now, you're starting out, with what else? The temperature. It's really, really cold here in France, and that seems to be all the local papers are talking about.
Yeah, that's right. It's freezing here in France if you're not here. It is really cold, so much so that Courrier Picard, which is a paper in the north of France, calls it the Siberian cold snap. In fact, polar air coupled with wind has brought the mercury right down, and unfortunately, it's going to be sticking around for the next couple of days, Delano. To get an idea of just how cold it is, let's show you this map from Le Parisien newspaper. Now, those winds that I spoke about means the temperature that we're actually feeling is much, much, much colder. So if you have a look at this map here, in Paris, what we're feeling is about -9, -12 in Lyon, and -14 in Strasbourg.
And those cold temperatures do end up taking a toll on the body, don't they?
I'm sure people in Siberia or Canada would probably laugh every time they hear about how much coverage...
Canada, definitely, yes.
How much coverage the snow and the cold gets in France, because it is so unusual. But yes, a doctor actually was interviewed by Le Parisien, and he explains that when temperatures go below zero, you actually have to modify your eating habits to stay warm. He recommends, for instance, more carbs, more lentils, more grains and fruits. You also need to avoid greasy food, which might be the temptation when it's cold.
It is the temptation because it's hot.
Exactly. But it's bad for your heart, so it could slow down your heart or block your arteries or something. You also need to drink a lot of water, which is also contrary to what you feel like you need in cold weather. Some doctors even recommend slowing down physical activity so as not to provoke heart problems.
Okay. Now, obviously, when we're out on the streets, walking to the metro, we see the homeless people in Paris, and a lot of papers are focusing on what associations are doing to help the homeless.
Well, we've heard some stories recently about homeless people who've literally frozen to death because of the cold, and associations are really doubling down on their efforts to try and help these people over the next 3 days. The regional paper West France, which is in Western France, notes that the national cold weather program has kicked in, meaning thousands of places at emergency shelters have been opened to take people off the streets. You have homeless people. You also have migrants who are also sleeping rough. It's also prompted a rather scathing cartoon from Libération. You remember that French President Emmanuel Macron promised there'd be no homeless people in France. Well, here he is scolding them, saying, I told you that nobody would be sleeping rough again, and they're replying, oh, we're very sorry, as though it were their fault. So a bit of a scathing article there.
Now, shifting focus to another big story, the Salon de l'Agriculture, the annual agricultural fair, has kicked off here in Paris, and it's shedding light. You have a piece that's shedding light on the struggling industry and how some farmers are trying to fight back against mass consumption. What's this about?
That's right. I mean, farmers, the agriculture industry in France, it must be said, is struggling, and every year the agriculture fair is an occasion for them to brush shoulders with people like Emmanuel Macron and politicians to really shed light on their struggles. According to Le Figaro, in 2018, 1 in 2 farmers will earn less than 350 euros a month. So you can understand just how measly their income is. Well, farmers now are finding ways to bypass the middleman who takes a good chunk of their revenue and sell directly to the consumer. So, for instance, if you have a farmer who only grows carrots, well, he's banding with other farmers that grow other vegetables and forming these cooperatives so they can sell directly to the consumer. It's called short circuits, and it's proving quite profitable for the farmers. They're also finding that selling online is quite lucrative. So they're once again banding their products together and then finding these platforms online to sell online. Perhaps it will help change the habits of French people, because 90% of French people purchase fruits and vegetables in supermarkets.
So you'll get fresher food this way.
That's right.
Now, the Winter Games have wrapped up over in South Korea. The French delegation are heading back, and they'll be making a stop in Grenoble today. Why Grenoble?
Well, they're heading back. That's right. They are heading back to Grenoble. They're actually heading there because they're going to be commemorating the 50th anniversary since France held its own Winter Games, 1968, in Grenoble. France's Olympic delegation are heading back home with 15 medals in tow. They've equaled their Sochi record for the most medals. The champions, of course, are the biathlete Martin Fourcade and ski moguls champion Perrine Lafont. And as I said, they're making a pit stop there in Grenoble.
Okay, now a dramatic Paris Saint-Germain-Marseille match took place in Paris yesterday as well.
Well, the French sports paper L'Equipe is talking about it on their front page, as you see here. Le Classique, that's what they call the Paris Saint-Germain-Marseille match. Every time they face each other, it's always tense anyway. But this time, Paris Saint-Germain did win 3-0, but L'Equipe says they paid a heavy price for victory because their star player Neymar left the pitch in tears after an ankle injury, and you'll see just how important these moments are in football. L'Equipe has a pretty precise headline. That injury came at 10:39. That's when it all was over for Neymar, as though this was like a plane crash or something. The stadium was silent as Neymar was escorted off the field. PSG fans were incredulous, and team doctors say he may be possibly out for up to 1 week to several weeks, depending on the injury.
Wow. Finally, let's end on a story from Le Parisien. The paper takes us back in time to the first metro ride in Paris.
Well, currently in France, you will know, Delano, that authorities are building these plans for expanding transport from Paris into its suburbs and sort of make this big conglomerate. Well, Le Parisien is going back in time to look at the the inaugural journey in the metro that began in July 1900 on a scorching day. It was 38 degrees.
Oh.
They describe a group of passengers happily walking through the corridors of the metro, and it offered some shelter from the 38-degree weather. One person said, I quote, "I could spend my vacation here." Not sure I meet anyone today who could say the same thing.
It does protect you from the cold. It's not the best to ride in the summer, unfortunately.
That's true.
We don't have air conditioning. Ditika, thank you very much for that. Ditika Laurent there with the press review. Time for a short break. Stay with us. There's more to come. This is France 24.